Very much did happen. And the Pacific player that was hit in the nose and started bleeding in the nose was Lexie Hall. Lexie Hall took a vicious elbow to the face from none other than the serial. I'm going to have to call her a serial abuser.
She's laughing. You just watched Alyssa Thomas elbow Lexie Hall in the face hard enough to draw blood, and seconds later she's pointing and laughing about it. That's not a basketball play, that's a pattern.
2 weeks ago. Now, this happened on June the 24th. Now, this was Lexie Hall last night. You tell me if anything is wrong with Alyssa Thomas. Tell me. You tell me, and you be the judge.
June 24th, Alyssa Thomas punched Caitlin Clark in the throat with a closed fist during a live game. The WNBA reviewed it, called it a non-basketball act, suspended her 1 game without pay, and the story exploded nationwide. Politicians got involved. Accusations of targeting flew from every direction. It became the biggest controversy the league had seen in years. Less than 2 weeks later, Thomas is back on the court against the Indiana Fever again, and she just put another Fever player on the injury report.
Lexie, and it looked like she's crying. Is Lexie crying? Watch this. Now watch this play here. Boom.
Lexie Hall took an elbow to the nose from Alyssa Thomas that left her visibly bleeding and, according to people at the game, possibly crying on the sideline. The cameras caught it. The replay shows Thomas's elbow making direct contact with Hall's face. And then, in the next frame, Thomas is smiling. The Daily Mail picked it up within hours. The headline reads, WNBA star who punched Caitlin Clark in the throat caught in fresh violence controversy with a different Indiana Fever player. This isn't speculation. This is documented, on video, in front of thousands of people, twice in 14 days against the same team.
Thomas for yet more violence against Indiana players. The intense reactions was made worse by TV capturing Thomas' appearance to laugh just seconds later. I guess Alyssa Thomas found it funny that she almost broke Lexie Hall's nose. One fan wrote on X. Another added, she needs to be dealt with the way she deserves. She's intentionally trying to hurt other players. She needs to she needs to be checked out by a psychiatrist. I told y'all, man.
Social media erupted immediately. One fan wrote, I guess Alyssa Thomas found it funny that she almost broke Lexie Hall's nose. Another said, she needs to be dealt with the way she deserves. She's intentionally trying to hurt other players. A third called for her removal from the league entirely. But here's where it gets complicated. Some people are calling this incidental contact. They're saying it's just a hard-fought basketball game. Elbows fly, it happens. One comment noted, it's obvious this was not on purpose. The league hasn't issued a statement yet. No suspension has been announced. No fine. Nothing. So the question sitting in front of the WNBA right now is this. At what point does a pattern become undeniable?
Against the Indiana Fever, the Phoenix Mercury star Alyssa Thomas served a 1-game suspension without pay for a non-basketball act after a post-game review determined that she had recklessly made contact with Caitlin Clark's throat with her closed fist. Now, we all remember when that happened. I was in the stands during that game. It was a very, very horrendous, horrific scene to watch. And what if I was...
Let's go back to the Caitlin Clark incident for context, because that's what makes this one impossible to ignore. Thomas was serving a 1-game suspension without pay after a post-game review determined she recklessly made contact with Caitlin Clark's throat with her closed fist. That's the league's official language, not incidental, not accidental. Reckless contact with a closed fist to the throat. The video from that game shows Thomas walking past Clark during a dead ball and throwing what looks like a short punch directly to Clark's neck. Clark grabbed her throat, stumbled back, and the refs didn't call it in real time. It took a full review after the game for the league to act, and even then it was only 1 game. That incident triggered a firestorm. 11 Republican members of Congress, led by U.S. Representative August Pfluger of Texas, sent a letter to WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert demanding accountability for what they called multiple attacks on Clark. The letter didn't mince words. It accused the league of allowing a culture where star players, particularly rookies who draw massive audiences, are being physically targeted without sufficient consequences.
The WNBA controversy surrounding Thomas and Clark, 11 Republican members of Congress entered the fray to demand the WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert take accountability for the multiple attacks on Caitlin Clark. The congressmen and women who led by U.S. Representative August Plumfunger of Texas sent the letter to the commissioner, which we all know that made headlines, man.
The political involvement made it a national story. Conservative outlets framed it as the league protecting certain players while letting others get brutalized. Progressive outlets pushed back, calling it racial profiling and saying the outrage was only this loud because Caitlin Clark is white and Alyssa Thomas is black. The WNBA tried to stay neutral, but the silence from the commissioner's office only made the controversy grow. And now, less than 2 weeks after that suspension ended, Alyssa Thomas is back in a game against the Indiana Fever. And another Fever player is bleeding from the face.
On from the unsavory incident, which sparked a nationwide storm accusation of racial profiling and involvement from politicians. The rivalry continued on Thursday night when the Fever once again took on the Mercury. Caitlin Clark was not playing. We also did not see Caitlin Clark play due to her ongoing injury recovery. So this time, it was teammate on the other end. Now, this specific teammate is...
Lexie Hall is not a random player. She's part of what fans call the Indiana Fever Core 3, alongside Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. These are the 3 players the fan base has rallied around. They're the faces of the Fever's rebuild. They're the reason attendance is up. They're the reason the league is seeing record viewership numbers this season. Caitlin Clark wasn't even playing in this game. She's out recovering from an ongoing injury, so the Fever were already short-handed. And in that game, Alyssa Thomas put an elbow into Lexie Hall's face hard enough to draw blood and send her to the sideline. The optics are brutal. The Indiana Fever, the team that's driving the biggest rating spike the WNBA has seen in over a decade, just had 2 of their core players physically targeted by the same opposing player in back-to-back matchups. Whether it's intentional or not, that's the narrative that's building, and the league has done nothing to stop it.
What is this? Yeah, assaults. These are all assaults. Oh, come on now. Come on now. Better give her AT a call and check out her mental health after this one. Yeah, bro. Telling y'all, she needs some type of counseling. But definitely let me know what y'all thoughts is down in the comments section.
One fan left a comment that's been shared hundreds of times. Lexie should be used to it. These are all assaults. Another wrote, AT needs a call. Check out her mental health after this one. The phrase serial abuser is showing up in threads across Twitter and Reddit. People are calling Alyssa Thomas a repeat offender, and they're demanding the league treat her like one. But the WNBA hasn't moved. No announcement, no investigation, no statement from Kathy Engelbert. Radio silence.
Saw the play as an incidental contact with one nodding. Pop up, my bad, y'all. With one nodding, it's obvious that this was not on purpose. In the end, it was the Fever who got the last laugh.
So why isn't the league acting? There are a few possible explanations, and none of them are great. The first is that they genuinely don't see this as intentional. They're viewing it as incidental contact, part of the game, and they think suspending Thomas again would be an overreaction that sets a bad precedent. The second possibility is that they're terrified of the optics. Alyssa Thomas is a prominent black player. Caitlin Clark and Lexie Hall are white. The league is already being accused of racial bias in how it markets its stars, with Clark getting disproportionate media coverage compared to players of color. If the WNBA suspends Thomas again, especially this quickly, they risk feeding that narrative and alienating a significant portion of their fan base. The third possibility is the one nobody wants to say out loud. The league is prioritizing controversy over player safety because controversy drives ratings. The Caitlin Clark punch became the most talked about moment of the WNBA season. It brought in millions of eyeballs. Politicians were talking about the WNBA on national news. That's free publicity the league has never had before. If this Lexie Hall incident blows up the same way, the WNBA gets another week of headlines, another wave of viral clips, and another ratings boost. The cost is that 2 players got hurt, but the benefit is that the sport is in the national conversation in a way it hasn't been in 20 years.
It's going to grow legs like a tarantula giving birth. I ain't lying to you. Everybody finna be talking about this story. I can damn near promise you.
The creator of this video, John, was actually in the stands when the Caitlin Clark punch happened. He says it was a very, very horrendous, horrific scene to watch. He's now saying Alyssa Thomas needs counseling for anger management. He's calling her a serial puncher, choker, abuser, and he's predicting this story is about to grow legs like a tarantula giving birth. He might be right. The Daily Mail article is already circulating. The Reddit threads are multiplying. The Twitter discourse is heating up. And the longer the WNBA stays silent, the worse it looks.
Now watch this play here. Boom. Did she laugh?
There's a clip from the game where you can see Lexie Hall's face after the contact. She's holding her nose, there's visible blood, and in the background you can see Alyssa Thomas pointing in her direction, appearing to laugh. Whether she's laughing at Hall specifically or it's something else happening on the court is unclear, but the visual is damning. Imagine you're a casual fan who just started watching the WNBA because of Caitlin Clark. You see her get punched in the throat by Alyssa Thomas. 2 weeks later, you see Thomas elbow another Fever player in the face and laugh about it. What conclusion are you supposed to draw?
That people is not, like John Root was at the game yesterday and John had insinuated that one fan had some racial ideology when it came to him working the game. And
John mentions in the video that after the game, there were reports of a fan allegedly making racial comments toward him while he was working the event. He doesn't go into detail, but he implies it's connected to the broader controversy around how race is being discussed in relation to these incidents. That's the powder keg the WNBA is sitting on right now. If they suspend Alyssa Thomas, they get accused of protecting white stars at the expense of black players. If they don't suspend her, they get accused of letting a repeat offender injure players without consequences. There's no clean way out
of the incident. So as you guys can see here, she's elbowing Lexie Hall in the face. This is Lexie Hall here. And she laughed. I knew she laughed. She's laughing about assaulting Lexie Hall. Now, this was the incident with her and Caitlin Clark.
The article John is reading from says, while some believe it to be a simple basketball play, others slam Thomas for yet more violence against Indiana players. The intense reaction was made worse by TV cameras capturing Thomas's apparent laugh just seconds later. That phrase, yet more violence, is doing a lot of work. It's framing this as a continuation of a pattern, not an isolated incident. And the fact that it's the Daily Mail, a British tabloid with massive international reach, means this story is no longer contained to WNBA fans or even American sports media. This is going global.
The game, the team run 92-89, but this is hard to forget.
Evanescence.
Oh no, man, we ain't looking at no ads, bro. We ain't looking at no ads.
In the end, the Indiana Fever won the game 92-89. Lexie Hall's injury didn't cost them the victory, but that's not the story anyone's talking about. The story is that the Fever, the team responsible for the WNBA's resurgence, just had another one of their core players bloodied by the same opponent who punched their biggest star 2 weeks ago. And the league has said nothing.
Make sure you guys keep them bells on. And until next time, man, shake the haters off. I'm out of here, baby. Peace out. And definitely, guys, don't forget, let me know what games you guys want me to go to, because it's going to be very interesting as we try to map out this.
So what happens next? The WNBA has a few options and the clock is ticking. They can issue a statement saying they've reviewed the play and determined it was incidental contact, no further action. That kills the controversy but opens them up to accusations of bias and negligence. They can suspend Alyssa Thomas again, which sends a message that repeat incidents won't be tolerated, but risks inflaming the racial tension that's already simmering around this story. Or they can do what they've been doing, nothing. Stay silent, let the media cycle play out, and hope the outrage fades before the next game. That's the path of least resistance, but it's also the path that erodes trust. Players, fans, and sponsors are all watching to see if the league will protect its athletes or prioritize optics. The Republican lawmakers who sent that letter to Commissioner Engelbert after the Caitlin Clark incident are still waiting for a response. If this Lexie Hall incident gains the same traction, expect another round of political pressure. Expect more headlines, expect more calls for accountability. And if Alyssa Thomas plays in the next game without consequence, expect the narrative to harden. The WNBA allows certain players to get away with violence, and the Indiana Fever are the targets.
What if I was to tell you Alyssa Thomas had another assault against the Indiana Fever on another basketball player in another basketball game? You will probably say, John, you lying. That's clickbait. That did not happen. I'm here to tell you it.
John opened this video by saying, there was so much stuff happening yesterday in the news, so many things occurring after the game, that this one scene in the basketball game went damn near unnoticed until major world news picked it up. He's right, this could have been buried. One elbow in one game in a league that most people still don't watch. But the Daily Mail ran it, social media amplified it, and now it's sitting next to the Caitlin Clark punch as part of a larger story about whether the WNBA is willing to protect its players or whether it's more interested in letting controversy drive ratings. The answer to that question will define how this league is remembered. Not just this season, but for the next decade. Because if the WNBA can't protect Caitlin Clark and Lexie Hall, the two players most responsible for bringing new fans to the sport, then what message does that send to every other rookie, every other rising star, every other player who's supposed to believe the league has their back? Alyssa Thomas might not be a villain, she might just be playing hard, physical basketball the way she always has. But when the same player puts two members of the same team in the headlines for violent contact in 2 weeks, intent stops mattering. The pattern is what matters. And the league's response to that pattern is what will determine whether this controversy fades or whether it becomes the story that defines the 2024 WNBA season. So here's the question. Do you think Alyssa Thomas should be suspended again, or is this just basketball? Drop your answer in the comments. If you think the WNBA is mishandling this, hit the like button. If you want to see where this goes next, subscribe, because this story is far from over. And let John know in the comments which games you want him to cover next, because the schedule is about to get very, very interesting.